Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. I'm Will Dragon and this is Suzerain. We are trying to become the best president Swordland has ever seen. Now, don't get me wrong, things were a little bit slow. Let's come through some reports. Combat has collapsed and mobile emergency response teams were dispatched. Current death toll is 82 encountered. Okay, we did read these at the end of the last episode. We've got a problem here. We've got... young sword was decapitated, probably by the Red Youth. Workers' Rights Bill nears completion. NFP on reforms. Has announced today that the NFP is completely against any threshold reform. He significantly emphasized that this would lead to unwanted elements entering the assembly and that he is outright against anything over the 10%. What have we got? The EPA stands for now. That's the Energy Protection Act. Outside, down in Lesbia. Yep. Arcasia builds a giant military base there, because that's not scary. And these guys say that no matter what, they will back Varg's land. So they're both encroaching from either side of Morcopia. Morcopia. I can't remember. The region that we're currently in and we're all part of. So they're encroaching. We have just had some talks about how bad the rural areas are up here. And like I said, it's all going pretty well. It's a little bit slow though, is my only gripe, I would say, so far with the game. Is I feel like I'm more a passenger as opposed to actually doing anything, really. But there's a labor strike at Gassam. Who only knows what it will do. And the Communist Party, the Labour Union, have organized a strike against Gassam. Yep, we got that. Right, so we've got a meeting with Manga and Alfonso on Gassam. After a series of intense meetings with Ciara and Pascal, I decided to take some much-needed rest to recharge. You should impede who are labouring tirelessly in the capital, uniting democratically leaning reformers for the crucial task of drafting a new constitution. Meanwhile, Gus Manga had invited me to visit the Gassam headquarters in Narbel. It was situated in Onabel, a neighborhood on the city outskirts. Next to it was the Demonoi Gas Reserve, a prominent natural gas source consisting of 4 large fields. As a motorcade made its way through the Onabel district, I noted the neighborhood's state of disrepair. The roads were bumpy and marked by potholes, while the buildings surrounding us appeared rundown and dilapidated. The community had apparently endured a prolonged period of neglect. We came to halt at the entrance gates of the facility. A sizable mural depicting the Gassam logo had been painted on a nearby wall. Adjacent to the mural, a group of individuals wearing blue work vests had assembled, holding what looked like protest signs. Serge skillfully parked the car, bringing our journey to a smooth and elegant conclusion. Gus greeted us warmly as we stepped out of the vehicle. Good day, President Rain. Welcome to Gassam's Narbel operations. I trust Ministers Welder and Bennywell didn't overwhelm you with their demands. Help development here. Perfect, that's exactly what I hope to accomplish during today's discussion. My job is to improve the conditions of places like these. Mr. President, I've been brainstorming a little something. The Gruny Rural Investment Plan, that's the area on the other side of the country. I reckon it's got the potential to breathe new life into our rural communities out in Gruny. We can consider a few things. For starters, we could give the farming business a boost with some subsidies. Or we could steer towards modernizing existing farms with machinery and tech. Or here's another thought. We could pour resources into developing crop breeds tailor-made for Gruny conditions. If it works out, we could roll this out across Swordland. He kept talking as he guided me into the Gassam building. Mr. President, I get the appeal of that green bill that's been making the rounds in the Assembly. But I'm telling you, if we put the brakes on that and funnel those funds into the Gruny plan instead, we can make some real strides without spooking any potential investors. I need to value the environmental implications and the economic benefits. That's all I'm asking for, Mr. President. Just give this plan a fair shake. Our talk was interrupted by a noise coming from outside the building. We looked out the nearest window. A sleek helicopter was cutting through the sky, sunlight glinting off its polished surface as it descended towards us. It was on our next appointment. Elwald Alfonso. It was our next appointment. Quite unnecessary. Alfonso's style, Mr. President. He's always enjoyed his toys. Before we meet, I wanted to bring you up one more piece of assembly business. I wanted to bring up one more piece of assembly business. This workers' rights bill. Look, I'm all for giving hard-working folks what they deserve, but isn't it a bit hasty to push this while we're still stuck in a recession? The way I see it, short-term wins might end up costing us big time in the long run. But in my books, workers' rights aren't up for negotiation no matter the economic climate. Isn't it high time we put people before profits? I see where you're coming from, Mr. President, but a prosperous economy helps everyone, the workers included. We're all sinking, nobody's winning. Please come this way. Edwald and I have some exciting news to share with you. I have faith that you won't leave us hanging. You still have to prove that you make returns on your deals. I haven't seen him since the inauguration. He really pulled back from public life. Maybe because something needs to be done about Narbel's living standards. The fact that you managed to get Rizia entangled in this is surprising. Curious what else we could achieve. Let's be nice to the guy. I'm glad that you made the right choice, of course. By the way, I still don't believe Taurus should be trusted with such a monumental mega project. They used to walk before they can... They need to walk before they can run, and I'm saying this as a guy who actually almost likes Franz Richter. Sacred crows are meant to be broken. I want to be the change maker during my term. We won't know until they complete the project. There's no reason to be negative before then. Time will tell. I also hope that it will succeed, believe me. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the elevator. He pushed open a door. We walked down yet another hallway, seemingly in the direction we'd just come from. Like a maze, isn't it? That's Kinali architecture for you. The hallways were lined with doors, glass panels in them revealing workers in suits and ties. Many of the foreign origin, busy in their pristine offices. A stark contrast to the blue-collar workers outside working with machinery, transportation, and maintenance. The white-collar seem to be having it good in here, while the majority are working out in the cold. Why are there so many workers from abroad? The best talent in Swordland was snatched by the SSC in the 1930s. Most other corporations couldn't contend, so they had to look elsewhere. Stat Corporate Swordland. The Sword State Corporation is the main government corporation that is tasked with running public construction contract. Aha. Here's the elevator. I will all to be up there already. There's a separate entrance by the helipad. We stepped into the elevator. Gus punched a code, and we began our ascent. Just remember, Alfonso's our friend. We've got the foundation for a great deal. Here we are, Edwald, my friend. Edward Alfonso stood up from his chair. He had on a perfectly tailored suit that he wore as casually as pajamas. Gus, you old devil, you. It takes one to know one. As promised, I've brought our guest of honor. President Rain, I hope you enjoyed seeing our facilities here. Nice to see you have built from the inside. It's fine, nothing compared to the Gassam HQ and Wholesword, of course. Still one of the standouts of the Maroon District. Please have a seat, let's talk. We sat down, some snacks and drinks were served, multiple Gassam yearly financial reports were scattered on the table between us. It's been a while, Mr. Rain. Let me catch you up on my activities since I left office. I ventured to Xena, immersing myself in its vibrant culture, then traversed the captivating landscapes of the Anrakan Peninsula, and finally reunited with old acquaintances in Kyo. Along the way, I had the privilege of encountering remarkable individuals who have made significant contributions to their respective fields. My experiences prompted deep reflection on the essence of life. I came out of it all with two words resonating in my head: reputation and legacy. These two pillars embody the lasting impact we leave behind, and the way we are remembered by others. With a cup of coffee in hand, he strolled over to the window, his gaze drawn to the expansive gas field stretching before him. Towering mountains provided a majestic backdrop. Our image and our perception are a key force that shape our lives, but they can also be burdensome. The focus on reputation and legacy is rooted in a capitalist framework that perpetuates individualism and inequality. I'm going to not comment. Taking a moment to appreciate the landscape, Alfonso turned back to us. I've been thinking about my own legacy and reputation, and I refuse to be remembered as a failed reformer. I put so many years of my life into this corporation, and then I left it all behind and devoted myself to serving the people of Swordland. And serve you did. Swordland would be much worse off without you. I cannot help but emphasize with individuals who invest their utmost dedication and passion into their work. Gassam continues to thrive, doesn't it? Your tenure as president may have come to an end, but it's not as if you are left with nothing. It's too early to tell whether the Alfonso era was good for Swordland. I cannot help but emphasize with individuals who invest their utmost dedication and passion into their work. That is much appreciated. I am well aware of the challenges you yourself have faced. I commend you for navigating those obstacles without causing harm to others. But I'm concerned about the future of what I have built up. The latest figures show that Gassam will have to either decrease staff and operations by 40% in 1 year, or take on a crushing amount of debt. This is why we have decided to reach out to foreign investors. Engaging with foreign investors can be a double-edged sword. I appreciate your perspective, but we need to adapt to the changing global landscape. Foreign investors will bring new opportunities and technologies that could enhance the efficiency and competitiveness of Gassam. It's about finding the right balance and safeguarding our interests. I appreciate you coming through, Gus. Getting Rizia interested in another investment is a major feat. We've got an amazing opportunity here. The demand for gas is steadily increasing from both international partners and the Swordish state. All we have to do is ensure a consistent supply. The trouble is that right now, some of our fields are operating at only half of their capacity due to resource limitations. But we have significant potential for expansion, including 2 new fields that haven't even been tapped. With the right amount of investment, we can expand resource extraction, effectively fulfill rising demand and ensure long-term stability and profitability. There is the aforementioned interest from Rizia, but the investment could also come from Swordland itself. The fact that a leading privatizer is coming to the state to bail out his corporation is hysterical. You do know that Rizia can't invest more than 20% unless the government permits the transaction, which can take a long time. If your analysis is correct. Indeed, this deal has potential to bolster both Gassam and Swordland. Together we can create a historic opportunity. Why settle for being in the top 10 energy exporters when we have the potential to compete with Arcasia and United Contana? Mr. Alfonso has neglected to mention that this is not an either-or proposition. Swordland can invest alongside Rizia. Investing together with Rizia could be better than just letting them purchase as much as they can. But the budget for and such cooperation could be beneficial. Very beneficial. I will be at the helm to ensure these funds bring sustainable growth and good returns. Ewold won't be alone. We have a talented financial team. The sound of sirens briefly distracted us. Through the window, we saw police cars driving down the street adjacent to Gassam Zone. We redirected our attention to the meeting. Ewold looked at me. Mr. Rain, the foundation for a robust partnership is right here. It's high time we shift our focus towards sealing this deal. We raise a minority investment to allow us to invest in further resource excavations in the gas fields and turn the company back to significant profitability. By significant, I mean that our projections show that Gassam would be able to cover 80% of Swordland's gas needs in 3 years, and we would achieve profits 4 times the value of your investment. I want to make sure the company is also committed to improving the socio-economic conditions in Narble. We need to consider the international market as well. How do we plan to compete against nations like Anraka, Arcasia, United Contana? I wholeheartedly agree the well-being of Narbel's citizens is a priority for Gassam. With this investment, we could certainly allocate some funds to improve the local infrastructure and create more jobs. Mr. President, I've been thinking, what if we tie Gassam's growth to Narbel's development? Get the company to invest in the community, you know? That way, everybody wins. Mr. President, your administration's commitment to a market economy aligns with our vision for a competitive GASM. With a government investment, we can further liberalize the energy market, enhance our technologies, and compete globally. But we need to make sure this is a sustainable solution. Thinking of Rizzia's investment would reduce the risk for us. However, we need to carefully consider the implications of sharing control with a foreign entity. I'm heavily interested in the idea of GASM investing in Narbal's development, but we need concrete actions, not just words. You're right to demand specifics. With this investment, we aim to improve the living conditions in Narbal by creating more jobs, providing better housing for our workers, and initiating educational programs. GASM is as committed to Narbal as it is to Swordland. It's about time Narbal got a leg up. Ewald's plan sounds solid to me. More jobs, better living conditions, that's a step in the right direction. If the Swordish government chooses to invest, it would gain a voice in the broader company decisions, even as a minority stakeholder. The government can either liquidate its shares at a future date or continue to reap the long-term benefits. A beneficial arrangement for all parties. Ewald walked back over to the window. He stood there, silhouetted against the vast expanse of the gas fields. After a moment, he turned back to face us. His gaze was steady, the expectation clear in his eyes. The time had come to make a decision. Well, Mr. President, will GASM and Swordland make history or not? Yes, let's keep it all in-house. I feel like this goes against a green bill that I was also thinking of. But it also does start to improve the country. I mean, do we have options for clean energy? Because there was a talk about going green, having less on fossil fuels, but nobody's come to me with any ideas. Is that an option in the game? Okay, we're gonna invest on our own. We're investing alone. Decision shows a commitment to Swordland's energy independence. We won't let you down. That's a bold move, Mr. President, but I reckon it's the right one. GASM's success will be Swordland's success. The worried workers will have no fears about job security thanks to this state intervention. Before we dive into the celebrations, I've allocated time during this meeting for President Rain to discuss any concerns regarding GASM's treatment of its workers and its effect on Narbal. Labour Union, along with the Communist Party of Swordland, has rallied substantial support from GASM workers in Narbal, advocating for improved local conditions. Alfonso nodded and looked at me. GASM stands as a global energy powerhouse. It's only right they give back somewhat. We need to address these concerns. Our duty is to listen and take action. That's the mandate granted to us by the public. While sometimes people don't always recognize what's in their best interest, do you have a proposal in mind, Mr. President? The workers of GASM need better housing, access to healthcare, and opportunities for education. As the leading industry here, GASM can't ignore its responsibilities. The wages of GASM blue-collar workers need to be increased. They are the backbone of your operations. I expect GASM to contribute significantly to local charities, aid in the city's recovery. I'm going to go for the top one. I mean, if they get better housing, access to healthcare, and opportunities for education, then that is a huge win, I think, for Narbal. I see the potential for GASM to play a larger role in supporting our workers and the community. And he did kind of promise that anyway. I will personally oversee initiatives to provide private housing, health, and education support for our blue-collar workers. I trust that you'll follow through on these commitments. Well, this is promising. Ewald's commitment to these initiatives should alleviate some of our concerns. Well, Mr. President, we're committed to... Suddenly, the meeting was interrupted. A quiet murmur of a conversation from outside the room grew louder, followed by the sound of hurried footsteps. A member of the private security team entered the room, his face taut with urgency. He approached Alfonso and leaned in to whisper something in his ear. Ewald nodded solemnly, his gaze meeting mine with a serious intensity. Gentlemen, it seems we have an unexpected situation outside. Some protesters from the Labour Union have blocked the main vehicular exits. Katerina Horton and Dennis Stahler seem to be leading the group. It would be difficult to leave the way we came without causing trouble. Communist Party of Swordland. Well, that's a pickle. What's our move, Ewald? Have a helicopter ready. We can leave undetected and avoid the chaos and potential danger. I think we should face the crowd head on. There's your prerogative, Mr. President. Following the violent events of late, I heavily recommend against facing any crowd. Mr. President, I advise you to leave via helicopter just in case. You can stay back and update the crowd on the discussions today. Serge Walkner rushed in. Mr. President, I have discussed the situation with the Presidential Guard and the police security. They are advising us not to go out the way we came in. More police are on the way. You must make a decision, Mr. President. Everyone waited. The tense silence of the room stood in stark contrast to the buzz of the ever-growing crowd outside. Ba-na-na-na-na-na. Okay, we are spending our government budget. Woo! Quite rapidly. Large state investment in Gassam. Company operation capacity and stability, thus enhancing the domestic energy sector. Also, we are supposed to be demanding... I like how fast they get news out. A resounding vote for Gassam's future. Clarion call of confidence in our energy sector. This action underscores our government's commitment to strengthening domestic industries and preserving our energy sovereignty. Detractors, it is clear that this financial boost could be the lifeline Gassam needs to secure a stable future. The government's recent heavy investment in Gassam has raised eyebrows and ignited criticism. Detractors argue this costly intervention falls short of addressing the core issues behind the company's financial instability. Instead of injecting vast sums into Gassam, critics suggest a more strategic and system-wide reform to bring about enduring improvements within the energy sector. I don't know. Maybe if I said go away, but then I feel like I was then I don't know. Gassam sees sought on government robust investment. A pricey mid-step. Okay, so it looks like 2 for and 2 against. Bluish Freedom Front under new leadership. Security forces have gathered intel regarding a hidden meeting among local leaders of the separatist group that occurred a few days ago. It's suspected they have elected a new leader in the meeting, Alwan Aj, who is the brother of the infamous former leader, Dalwin Aj. I can't see any other bits of news. Let's come back to Narbel, leave Gassam facility and Narbel. Address the protesters and leave by car. As we stepped out of the towering front gate of the Gassam facility, I immediately became aware of how tense the situation was. Gus Manga stood to my right, his silhouette barely distinguishable from the monolithic edifice behind us. Serge stood to my left, his eyes scanning the crowd with the precision of a hawk. The Gassam security had drawn their weapons in anticipation, forming a bristling wall around the perimeter. My Presidential Guard, in stark contrast, stood tall and unflinching at the entrance, shielding us from the sea of angry workers surrounding us. The shouts of the crowd were deafening, the hostility palpable. Stallo and Horton stood at the forefront with fire in their eyes. With a deep breath, I prepared to address them. Gus extended a megaphone towards me. We stand with you today. Our shared goal is simple, to demand improved living and working conditions for everyone. I want you to take a good look around you. Let's not threaten them. We are not blind to your struggles. We seek to acknowledge them, address them, and above all, improve them. And we are united by a common goal, a prosperous Gassam that cares for its workers. But a step towards stronger and more balanced Swordland. And above all, improve them. Speeches and more speeches from President Rain, but what exactly was decided today? We need more than pretty words, we need substance. She's right, Mr. President. We need details. What's going to change for the workers? Now, hold on a moment. President Rain is committed to bringing about real change. His actions and decisions demonstrate this clearly, even if it doesn't fit your narrative. Is that so, Manga? All we've seen are decisions that favor the likes of you and Edward Alfonso, not the common workers. It's not about the narratives, Mr. Manga. It's about ensuring a fair, dignified life for the working class. Something your policies have consistently failed to do. Dennis, the focus here is not on narratives or images, but on real, tangible changes. It's a process, and we are on the right track. I understand your skepticism, Dennis, but I assure you, my administration is devoted to bringing about better conditions for our workers. What do you really know about the struggles of the working class? Let's not attempt to pick a fight. Your words are compelling, President Rain, but can they truly outweigh the years of corporate dominance? Your intentions sound noble, President Rain, but intentions alone don't feed families or pay bills. We need concrete actions. What about the recent campaign finance bill, Mr. President? It's a direct attack on democracy. effectively silencing smaller parties like ours. You neglect our nation's healthcare system will harm millions. Oh, hang on, I didn't neglect it. It was already neglected. Mr. President, we demand that you support the upcoming Workers' Rights Bill. The labour force of Swordland will be watching your next move closely. Furthermore, we want reform. Reduce the election threshold and change the constitution to make a more democratic and fairer nation. Judgment in times like these. The campaign's finance bill ensures fair funding for democratically elected parties. It's not an attack on democracy, but a measure to safeguard it. Frustrations many you have, rest assured. We are here, we are listening, and we are committed to addressing these issues. We are working hard and making progress, but our troubles won't simply vanish. I'm going to go for that one. Quiet murmurs of discontent begin to ripple through the crowd. The workers' faces seem to turn even stonier. I could feel the tension growing. The presence of our guards did little to reassure me. Suddenly, a reporter pushed through the crowd, brandishing a microphone towards me. The locals of Narbal have suffered under the impact of Gassam for years. What concrete steps is Gassam going to take for the benefit of the local community? Gassam is committed to improving the living conditions for its workers. This includes providing private housing and ensuring access to healthcare and education. Guard negotiations secured a commitment from Gassam to significantly better lives for its employees. Upgraded housing, assured healthcare, and opportunities for education are now guaranteed. Gassam will now provide better housing, healthcare, and education for every worker. See, Mr. Stal and Mr. Horton, I'm on your side. You can stop whining now. I know it's hard to believe, but today was a victory. Change came over the crowd. The angry shouts were replaced with cries of disbelief, then joy. Eventually, all fell silent as they waited for Dennis and Katerina to respond. If these promises materialize, it could mean a significant improvement in the lives of our comrades at Gassam. This is a start, albeit late. Let's hope it's not a mere lip service. Private housing, healthcare, and education. That's indeed a shift from the status quo, Mr. President. While I commend this commitment to improve the lives of our Gassam workers, we can only hope this is not just another political gambit. A group of figures emerged from the crowd, adorned in unmistakable scarlet attire. The Red Youth had arrived. I realized this was no longer a mere protest. It was a symbol of a broader, more potent struggle. The police began reorganizing their ranks, adopting defensive postures. Could you shed some light on the possible deal between the Swordish government and Gassam? What role does the Kingdom of Rizia play in this arrangement? We'll shoulder the investment for Gassam. It's a bold step, one that underscores our commitment to self-reliance and autonomy. The government of Swordland has decided to solely invest in Gassam. We believe this will lead to a direct positive impact on the citizens of Swordland. I believe Swordland knows what's best for Swordish companies. Surprising but potentially promising decision, Mr. President. Let's hope your confidence isn't misplaced. Encouraging President Rain, as long as your government's drive to recoup your investment doesn't take precedent over Gassam's struggling labor force. Nearby, a Gassam security officer and a Presidential Guard member were conversing in hushed tones. Saw them glance over the crowd, now calmer but still restless. President Rain, while the crowd appears somewhat subdued, I would advise we exercise caution. It may be best to conclude your address and proceed to the vehicle. Running away from this will only make the protesters angrier. I'll remain here, Mr. President. The Crown seems calmer now, and I believe I can answer their queries and maintain the peace. You should go ahead. Mr. President, thank you for your willingness to address us. Let's continue these important conversations moving forward. You've shown courage today. We'll see if your actions match your words. Until next time. We have shown courage together. Now we will hold you accountable to your promises. The troubles of the laborers are not over, and neither is the work of our union. Shake their hands. Dennis followed suit. Almost immediately, the remaining tension in the crowd dissipated. A few workers nearby broke into scattered applause. The initially hesitant clapping grew louder, and jubilant cheers and whistles filled the air. I saw the Red Youth members standing at the edge of the crowd with their arms folded, a hint of approval in their eyes. As I readied myself to leave, I turned back to Katerina and Dennis one last time. Most wouldn't come out because most fear facing the truth. As for the conversation, it's always been going on. My job is to listen and act. As for accountability, isn't that what all governments should be held to? You have my word. I understand your frustration and the urge to voice your concerns. However, let's keep our discourse respectful and constructive. This can I look forward to our continuing conversations. Let's all remember that we're here for the same reason, to better lives of our citizens. Let's not allow our differences to blind us to our common goals. The reporter jumped in. Can you clarify the current status of your personal relationship with our... No more questions, please. Mr. President, if you could please proceed to the vehicle. Serge opened the door of the car and I lowered myself into the seat. The door closed behind me with a thud, sealing off the external noise. The crowd began to disperse, the individuals breaking away to let our convoy through. The guards took their position nonetheless, forming a human barrier around the vehicle. The engine purred to life, and we began to move. I'm glad we are safely on our way, Mr. President. Thank you, Serge. I don't know what I'd do without you. I'm merely doing my job, Mr. President. Ensuring your safety is my top priority. The echoing voices of the protesters gradually subsided as we retreated from the scene and left Narble behind. Ooh, successfully extricated. We managed to get ourselves out. Doesn't look like any in-country reports. However, in the news, blue-collar support, a win for traditional values. In a step that holds the dignity of hard-working Swedish citizens, Gassam is committed to providing private housing, health, and education support for blue-collar workers. In the face of the economic challenges these workers face daily, this commitment sends a clear message. Hard work does not go unnoticed in our society. Tone-deaf, President's address misses the mark. That's harsh. It was... In what was supposed to be a crucial address to the workers at Gassam and the people of Narbel, President Anton Rain appeared to be tone-deaf to their needs concerned. Despite the urgent need for leadership and direction, the President's address was notably lacking in empathetic understanding and effective solution. This miss underscores the disconnect between the presidential office and the plight of the common worker. I'd notice there's no details. From Swordland Today. Beacon of Hope, President Anton Rain's recent address at Gassam Gates in Narbal has been met with an overwhelmingly positive response from the crowd. My tone-deaf response. The president's articulate delivery and compelling arguments serve to rekindle faith in the Swordish government. Gassam worker welfare takes a leap forward. In recent breakthrough, President Anton Rain secured a commitment from Gassam to provide housing, health, and education support for their hard-working blue-collared workers. In these challenging economic times, assistance can considerably improve the quality of life for these workers and their families. A triumph for worker activism. And a hard-fought victory for workers, Gassam has agreed to extend housing, health, and education support to their blue-collar workforce. Won primarily through the relentless struggle of the Labour Union of Swordland and the Communist Party of Swordland, marks a milestone in workers' rights. The role of President Anton Rain, while instrumental in the negotiation process, pales in comparison to the blood, sweat, and tears of our workers. Well, we can clearly see which newspapers are for us and which ones are against us. Whole Sword Post loves us. The Lack of Time loves us. The Radical wishes we didn't exist. And the Swordland Today thinks we're an idiot. Okay, let's go to Whole Sword Stability Order of 1954. An investigation on the influence of the Young Swords and Red Youth organizations on the post-assassination unrest has concluded. Both organizations haven't officially organized or called for illegal actions, but several low to mid-level leaders from both have links to insightful actions that led to deaths, injuries, and instability. This allows us to ban the organizations. Well, it's difficult, you know, because if you don't ban them, it's like you're condoning them. If you do ban them, it's like you're trying to maybe go to war with them and pick a fight on groups that are already very angrily trying to destabilize your country. Do you want to add fuel to the fire? That is the question. I'm going to say don't ban. I think I'm calming things down. And that's what I'm going to continue to try and do. Okay, still no stories. Groony Regeneration and Ecological Economy Nurturing Act. The Green Bill has been passed by the GNA. The Green has proposed by the Assembly, aiming to encourage a more sustainable approach to industry in Groony. Section 1 of this act would impose stricter regulations on industrial pollution and waste disposal, particularly in the Groony region. Businesses not complying with these new standards may face hefty fines, the revenue from which would be invested back into the environmental recovery projects. Section 2 proposes to offer tax breaks to businesses that can demonstrate a significant reduction in their environmental impact over a period of time. A small investment fund is created for eco-friendly business practices. Here goes another government budget, but hey, let's sign it. I like it. we have like no money left whatsoever in the country. I was walking to my office since today was the day to edit and make final changes for the proposal to change the constitution of Swordland. And that is, I mean, I don't know when this might attempt to uptick, but hey. The Reform Committee finally brought tangible results, and the draft of the changes were about to be presented to me. I walked in the marble corridors of the palace, thinking about the huge decisions I was going to take. At the entrance to my office, my secretary, Livia, greeted me. Good morning, Mr. President. How are you today? Fine, thank you. More importantly, how are you, sir? I'm perfectly fine. Good to hear. She paused before taking my coat. It looked like she had something on her mind. Mr. Rain, can you give me a hint about your reform plans? If you ask me, taking away the judge's immunity is long overdue, but it might anger a lot of people in these halls. Nothing's been decided yet. I hope you'll keep me informed. I'll take your coat now. Why would I keep her informed? Who is this woman? Not long after, Peter, Lucian, and Nia arrived. Why do I feel like she's like spying on me or something? Green Axe signed a leap in the dark. Has been met with skepticism. While the intent behind the act to promote sustainability and environmental responsibility is admirable, there are concerns that it might place an undue burden on business, potentially hindering economic growth. A victory for the environment. It again doesn't say anything about me whatsoever. It completely ignores the fact that I exist. For the annual Benfey Festival. It's the time of year again, the largest cultural festival in the entire Swordland. Benfey Festival has begun its preparations. Okay. Come back to this. Greetings. Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning. Time to finally get this proposal going. After your modifications, we will be starting the process. Can we go over each of the points that are in the discussion? Well, apart from the first two sections of decreasing the Supreme Court's authority and limiting the presidential vetoes, nothing else has been agreed on unanimously. We can start talking about Section 3. This is about the impeachment process of the president. Currently, in cases of high treason and breaking the Constitution, the Supreme Court may impeach and try the president. Most reformists want the impeachment to be initiated by the Assembly. They think they do not have any power over potential rogue presidents that would abuse their power. Not sure if it's correct. The law is particularly dangerous for you in this case. We will be going against the old guard, and if we prove to be successful in the Assembly, they will be looking for anything they can to declare unconstitutional to tackle you. All they need is the Supreme Court to impeach you. We can even remove impeachment altogether. I don't think that's a wise idea to include in the reforms, unless you wish to be like Colonel Sol after all. The next one. This is regarding the appointment of ministers. Currently, the president is free to appoint anyone from the members of the Assembly. Nobody else is involved with the process. There is definitely a demand to involve the Assembly in the process. That's going a bit too far. Maybe, but Mr. Richter doesn't think so. Mr. Clavernon, our party's reformist wing, has no problems with the current law. I'm sure PFJP can be persuaded too. The entire package is to their liking. I don't think Friends will resist his own. He wouldn't say no to such major changes just because of a few small details. Fifth section is about our infamous electoral threshold. Most reformists want to lower the threshold as much as possible. Mr. Richter and his PFJP definitely wants to see change on this topic. They find our 10% threshold to be anti-democratic, which is something I also agree with. Yes, but this is a delicate matter. The party, and I mean not even Albin, wants us to change the threshold. They think that this will destroy our party in the long term. Not wrong, the 10% threshold is what that allowed us to control half of the Assembly, with around 1/3 of the majority in the elections. You really think it would hurt the party? I think this is a national matter, Mr. Rain, not a partisan one. It is a matter of both when we have the Communist Party and the Workers' Party of Bludia getting more than 5% vote in the last elections. Decreasing the threshold might mean opening their way into the Assembly. Of course, that would also mean the USP might lose its majority in the Assembly, sir. With these reforms, we will be even more popular. I hope it works out, Mr. President. This is about the presidential decrees. Reformists demand more limitations to the president's executive power. Mr. Richter has demanded them to be completely removed. I have suggested to bring some limitations to decrees regarding their applicability. While we keep them, we should try to make sure that they will only be used in emergency situations. We could also make it dependent on an enabling act from the Assembly. Sure, it would make the whole process longer, but as long as we have a majority, nothing really changes. I may need to think a bit longer about this. Sure, you'll have time, a long time before we start writing the final proposal together. Next one is Section 7, term limits. Term limits. They want us to include previously non-existing term limits. We can't allow somebody like Sol holding onto his seat for 2 decades again. We should establish limits. If people keep electing one person, that means they really are content. The masses are scared of change. Even Sol knew he had to leave, but we will leave it to the president to decide. People should be able to elect the same person if they want to. Now move on to the 8th section. We are reaching the end. It's the question about the immunity of the judges. While the anti-old guard sentiment is increasing, there are talks that taking away their immunity would give us authority over judiciary. I do not support taking away their power for yourself, Mr. President. Judiciary must be independent and long-lasting. While I agree that the current court members are problematic, this is no way to resolve it. The law is supposed to ensure the judiciary's independence by giving legal protection so they can't be pressured. While they need absolute immunity in theory, but look at what reality got us. We've got to deal with the most corrupt Chief Justice in the world, with no chance to deal with him. Why should I only be there? But it would be tougher to persuade the judges with this. Mrs. Edmonds may not want to cooperate with you if they believe you're going to get rid of them afterwards. And the last one is a question about Sol's legacy. Basically his Member of Honor law. It gave him absolute immunity even when he's retired. He is a permanent member of the Assembly as well, but luckily he doesn't really attend anymore. According to the Constitution, the Member of Honor not only has legal immunity, but the state also covers most of their expenses, as well as providing security at all times. It can only be given to someone by an absolute majority vote in the Assembly and the approval of the President. That's why only Tarquin Sol has that title. He gave it to himself right after his military coup. This law is basically made to save the Colonel, and it has symbolic importance for Swordland because of it. We must get rid of this senseless law that protects him. He should be able to face justice for the atrocities that had taken place during his rule. You could keep the title but take away the immunity clause. That would be enough to hold him accountable for his actions, but why would we want to keep such a title, Mr. President? Regardless of him, I see no problem with having a title for great heroes. Regardless of what Mr. Rain decides, we will need to work together to push this agenda. Let's start working on the draft. Placing the committee's report in my own notes in front of me, I buried myself in the papers. Okay. According to Articles 77 and 82, the President may veto a bill by returning it to the Assembly with a written statement. The articles do not contain any information on how to override a veto. As a consequence, the President has an absolute veto power that cannot be overridden with a supermajority in the Grand Assembly of Swordland. Limit vetoes, I think. 3/5 majority can override. Well, I remove Supreme Court's voting rights, so I don't have a choice in that. According to Article 17, the President of Swordland is not responsible for the actions performed in the exercise of presidential duties, except in the case of high treason or violation of the Constitution. In such cases, the President may be impeached by the Supreme Court in joint session, with an absolute majority of its members. Therefore, the impeachment process only includes the Supreme Court, and it gives them great power over the executive. The Assembly and the Supreme Court may impeach with majority in both. According to the Constitution, the President appoints the ministers to the Council. The Assembly nominates from elected members of the Assembly. Oh, I've been able to... That one hasn't. So those two have had to have changed. Yeah, we'll go for both of them. I'm happy with that. I think that's the right way to go. That you know, wins over the Assembly a bit more. Do not change. He appoints the Minister of Council of Ministers from elected members of the Assembly. Yeah, 100%. The President gets to choose his own cabinet. According to the Article 50, a political party needs a minimum of 10% of the total national vote to win seats in the Grand National Assembly. The votes of parties who pass the threshold are redistributed proportionally, meaning USP, which currently holds the lead, would be the main beneficiary. Decreasing the threshold may allow the Workers' Party of Bludia and Communist Party of Sordon to be elected in the next elections. I think I do want to change it. I'm worried about the implications, though. I mean, it says, and my notes. Where are my notes? Where are all the notes I've been taking? And do I want to go to 8% or 3%? 8%. According to Article 18 and 51, the President is able to issue decrees on political, social, and economic issues that would carry the force of law. They could not contradict the Constitution as subject to judiciary review. Therefore, the President may issue decrees in many subjects without going through the Grand National Assembly. However, the Assembly may pass legislation on the same subjects to override presidential decrees. We may include the Assembly in the process by requiring an enabling act from the Assembly to be able to enact decrees or remove them completely, making the Assembly the sole lawmaker authority. Do not change. It's not the time. I think we have really important things to be done, and we don't want to make them take a really, really, really long time. According to the Constitution, the President shall be elected to serve for 4 years. However, there is no mention of a term limit. Do not change. The Constitution gives the Justices of the Supreme Court absolute immunity before the law and describes no procedure of impeachment, making them untouchable by the other branches of the government. We may describe an impeachment procedure by giving the Grand National Assembly the right to propose an impeachment of a justice on the legal grounds of unconstitutional behavior. Do not change. I think I need that to have any hope in the Supreme Court, if I'm perfectly honest. Well, there's more. Article 19 Constitution refines the Member of Honor title. Aha, the rights of the members may exercise. Member of Honor has absolute immunity and is considered to be a permanent member of the Grand National Assembly. They are given control of their own personal security team, provided by the state's presidential guards. A member is also eligible to live in a special private residence provided by the state for free. I'm actually going to abolish it, because I don't want to just get rid of immunity. I want to get rid of all of these provisions. I mean, giving them a title and allowing to be a permanent member of the Grand National Assembly, I could live with. And I would be happy keeping that in this proposal. But everything from there afterwards, they are given control of their own personal security team, provided by the state's presidential guards. A member is also eligible to live in a special private residence provided by the state for free. With all of that immunity, I want to take all of that away. So we're going to go and finish this. Are you sure about your decisions? Not in the slightest. I showed it to my team. They read the changes and discussed it amongst themselves. Lucian spoke afterwards. Looks like the amendments are ready to be proposed, but I have to say this too. The new electoral threshold will be really difficult for the party to accept. Our guys are not fond of that idea. Not reforming the ministerial laws will also be frowned upon by the party. The Assembly members have insisted on getting involved in the process. Okay. That's true, it'll be tough to get all of their support. Some of our members may try to openly fight against this. We'll figure it out. We will all do our best to make it work, sir. Any other comments before we proceed? I don't think we have any problems with the changes. Me neither. Looks like we can proceed immediately. I will personally work on the wording of this proposal with my hand-picked legal experts. With Mrs. Morgana's reputation as the most experienced attorney, this proposal will be bulletproof. Chief Justice also will have a hard time convincing others to oppose it. In the meantime, you must introduce this proposal to our party. You will need to get them to back us if we want it to pass the Assembly. I advise you first talk to the leaders of both conservative and reformist wings of the party. As far as I'm aware, Mr. Clavin supports the reforms already. Mrs. Tory will be the real problem. She became the real heavyweight after we left for the executive. Any advice in regards to dealing with them? As Mr. Vecton said, Mr. Clavin will probably be easier to persuade. We need to unite the party under this, so his support is vital. Mrs. Gloria will be tougher to break. The problem is that she's capable of turning the moderates and conservatives against us. As much as I don't want to say this, if she makes demands to change the proposal, you may need to give in. Thanks for the advice. Wish you good luck with the party, sir. I think we can end the meeting here. We all shook hands and left the room. Okay, oh, we've got a few things going on. We have in Lackavan, dinner with the business council members. Widespread protests. In Wholesword, we have meeting on the Energy Protection Act of 1932. And we have a reform committee started preparations. And then in the Outer World, we have... Oh, current proposal. Alright, this is my current proposal. Got it. It's nothing going on in the far left of my screen. This is just the proposal. New process to override a presidential veto with a supermajority in the Grand National Assembly of Swordland. Supreme Court's vote will be removed from the constitutional amendments process. That was one of the big things, I do believe. And so, yes, everything is happening in here. 2 news articles. Our source informed us that the plan is underway by the government to start the drafting of the reform package. The Iranian administration has reached out to PFJP, led by Franz Richter. Despite his history of criticizing and opposing the USP, even calling Rain yet another pawn that was put forward as candidate during the campaign elections in 1953, it is the first time in USP government that a president is cornered to work with his unapologetic rivals to this extent. If any significant come out of this collaboration is yet to be seen. Recent data-driven forecasts from our economists and analysts indicate that repealing the Energy Protection Act could unlock a new area of robust growth in Swordland. A thorough examination of market trends underscores the tremendous potential for economic expansion, should energy companies be granted unfettered access to the market. Furthermore, we propose an intriguing strategic move. The government should contemplate a co-investment venture with Rizia in Gassam. This initiative could potentially draw the attention of Rumburg, building upon the recent commitments made by Rizia. The economic implications of such a maneuver could be game-changing, underlining the need for a bold re-evaluation of the EPA's constraints. It is one of monarchy states. Okay, and so, I mean, am I happy with this? Is there a button at the... remove the member of honor title. I'm very happy with that. No impeachment. I'm happy with that. No changes to term limits. President may issue decrees in certain subjects without going through the National Assembly. No changes to that. The electoral threshold will be decreased to 8%. So I'm giving them a small bone. Appointment of ministers, no changes. There's not a lot of changes, to be honest. Will be modified to include both the Supreme Court and the National Assembly in the impeachment process of the president, not just the Supreme Court, which I think it was. Supreme Court vote will be removed. That one goes, and we still have our veto, but it could be overridden by a 3/5 majority. Yes, so baby steps, but we are getting there. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to leave the episode there. That was quite a big bill to be put into force. What have we got going on? Investment in Groenie, trying to stimulate economic growth, promote innovation, and bolster local business. The strategic investment is expected to generate a supportive environment for sustained development and prosperity in the Groenie region. So when we come down to places like this, and let's go to here, Benfey. It's a tourism destination. It is a USP major, and of course there is widespread protests. Leyron is an NFP mayor, sorry, not major. CPS mayor, and widespread protests. Followed by our last city in this region. The Falcon Dam is an important sort of hydroelectricity. PFJP mayor, and widespread protests. To be fair, this place ain't got very many problems, if I'm perfectly honest with you. You come to some of our other places, that's got no problems whatsoever. It's got some protests. Decreasing job openings. Low industrial output. Okay, so Morena does have... Morena? No. Morna does have some problems. But the problems down in this side of the country, compared to up in this side of the country? I mean... high levels of poverty, lack of healthcare services, logistical issues, organized crime, police force is overburdened. Let's come down. Let's go into this new region. Bergia Special Zone, Sol Dam, widespread protests. Low literacy rates. Low literacy rates, lack of healthcare services. Up here in Narbal as well. Police force overburdened, low literacy rates, organized crime, and lack of healthcare services. I mean... oh yeah, I think we can see which side of the country is really suffering. And it sure ain't the East, I'll tell you that much. As I did say, of course, this is the end of the episode. I just want to mention, we will leave it there. Yeah, we've just got a bit of constitution. We are spending our money like it's going out of fashion, quite frankly. And we will see what decisions start to affect us. I wish you could almost open this into a bit more of a chart. Republic of Swordland. Oh, here you go. GDP World Ranking, 16th. Member of OMEC. And we're a member of the AN, the Alliance of Nations. And so until next time, ladies and gentlemen, where we will come back and continue to play as the president of Swordland. And maybe attempt to keep the country going in the right direction. Now, of course, I've kind of just been pushing every single good idea that comes my way. But clearly we're about to run out of money soon, and it's going to be proven that that might not actually be the best idea. And so until next time where we potentially find that out, as per always, I hope that you can stay safe, happy, and healthy.